But to go to your issues, and we're talking about the pandemic, we're talking about international responses to that. How is that different than the United States? It's not just the Second Amendment, it's the First Amendment. It's both of them working together. And the understanding that intrinsically in the United States, we are individuals and we are the power of our government. I think that's incredibly powerful because you don't see that anywhere else in the world. Australia, New Zealand, they're built off of the British system, the United Kingdom. And so they have similar ideas, but not as fully realized as we do because they never broke away. They're still part of the United Kingdom. They still operate under the laws of that Commonwealth. We don't, because we fully embraced individuality. So that means we can question our government, and we should always, in everything that it does. And when we questioning things is never a bad thing. And I know over the last year and a half, we've been demonized for questioning what the government is doing, but we should. Because when we didn't question them about wearing one mask, wearing two masks, wearing 3 or more masks, we then get the UCLA and USC coming out with their studies, which are duplications of studies that we have seen for years now coming out of Europe, out of the WHO, that have told us very clearly, masks don't work. They were never effective on an airborne virus. That mask, some people wearing just mere cloth, is never going to be stopped by these masks. And in fact, there are further healthcare issues that were more detrimental. On top of that, we should question the science. When we have a process, now, most people don't know, I used to be a stockbroker as well, and there's a process for the FDA. It takes 10 years for a drug to be approved for human trials. On a fast track, like the AIDS drug, it takes 7 years for a drug to be approved for human consumption. What we saw under the pandemic are vaccines that were created in less than a year that had no human trials. We effectively, the public, became that trial, and we're still not sure what the repercussions of that are because it is an experimental drug. In fact, it was approved as an experimental drug for mass consumption, something that has never been done before, not even with polio, smallpox. We've never done that before. So it is good that we question our government and reassert that as individuals, we have the right to choose. And this is where the Second Amendment comes in. And we reinforce those rights by telling the government they cannot use their power and weight against us to force us to comply. In Australia, if you didn't comply, you are physically, the government, the military of Australia went to your door, knocked on it, said, you're coming with us. We have a camp. There's many names for what it was, but we have an area just for you because you might be infected and you're going to go. And you had no choice. New Zealand was even more restrictive and more punishing to its people. Italy, we can go around the world. Every government, they were using military and the full weight and threat of the government because the people had no way to effectively fight back. And they didn't have the right to even try to question. We do. So that's fundamentally the difference between the United States throughout that process and the rest of the world.
Thank you. I just learned something, how we've become more of a beacon of freedom through holding tried and true to those principles over the years rather than our other English-speaking counterparts that didn't have the same philosophies or the same underpinnings as we did, and how over the course of human history for these past 200 some odd years, how the drift has gone to where they're, obviously not like us in many respects. So I may be getting off in the weeds in that, but
no, not at all. It's, that's why I call myself an American. And that's the important thing. I'm not a Black American. I'm not a Hispanic American. I'm an American.
Good.
Why am I an American? For the same reason that people in Hong Kong were waving around the American flag in 2019, praising and singing our national anthem. Why? Because they wanted a hint of the freedom that we have every day. Why we have seen there's a line of at least 2 to 3 million people waiting to come in to legally immigrate into the United States and become naturalized citizens. Why we have 25 million illegal aliens that have entered the United States, 5 million in the last 19 months. They're coming here, and you always hear the progressives like to say, well, that's only because of economics. No, it's not. Ask them, and they will tell you it's because you're free, because you have the capability to go beyond your class, to go beyond your station in life, because you will be heard. There were 17,000 Haitians who said, rather than living in their home country, rather than living in the various countries they had gone to, and remember, Haiti has been a hellhole for a long time. It takes about 2,000 miles to get from Haiti to Del Rio, Texas, to live under a bridge. They thought America was so great that living under a bridge as criminals was better than living in their country or any other country in the world. You know what? Yes, I'm an American, and it's not just because of the money. They were coming here for a better quality of life, the ability to be heard, even as criminals, even as illegals living under a bridge. They have more rights, more freedom, more people paying attention to them than anywhere else in the world, because if they had a better choice, they would have gone there instead.
Why is that so if this country is so evil and has to essentially change everything about itself to be better? Why would everybody want to come here and go through all these inhumane travel requirements to get here if this was such just an evil place, such an evil nation, and that we shouldn't exist the way that we are?
See, you hit it on the nail. You hit it right on the nail. It's that when you stop and look at any aspect of progressive ideology and their political standpoint, it falls apart. It is never meant to be actually examined or questioned. It is meant to be obeyed through either emotional manipulation or force. And it is there to have a small group of elites ruling over you. It's about control at every aspect. Joe Biden came into office. He signed 40 executive orders, almost one per hour. I mean, it's the fastest we've ever seen in the world. One of them happened to be an executive order on equity and diversity, which meant that the federal government must emphasize its actions based on people's skin color, their sexual preference, or their sexual gender. So if you're a toaster, you get moved up on the list on what the government's going to do to help you. We see that realized today with Kamala Harris admitting it, that the help for Hurricane Ian, the relief we're going to give, is going to be based on people's skin color, their sexual identity, and their sexual gender, which normal people would say is evil. And now they got Pete Buttigieg come out to back her up because he's gay and she's black and presumably a woman. I'm not a biologist, neither is she. And so they're going to back up so that I can't say anything. You can't say that. Why? Because she's black, so am I. Oh, well, she's a woman. What's that got to do with anything? Oh, well, and Pete Buttigieg, he's gay. You can't say it. Otherwise, you're a sexist, racist, phobe, whatever. You're a bad person. No, I'm questioning the government because I have the right by birth, as defined, or rather as exemplified by the First Amendment. I can question them. I can question their policies. A policy that was not put through the Congress, that was put through the force of the executive office, which I think is an overreach.
After we're done tonight, how can we affect our communities for change? How can we enlighten them?
Something that affects your life, and you know where you stand on it, whether you're for or against it. And now the next thing you need to do is to actually go out and vote.
Yes.
Not just in the main election in November. I want you to vote in the primaries. I want you to pick the people who are actually going to show up in November.
I totally agree. And you said it in a prior answer, and I very much appreciate that. Is the opposing side, the left, just wants mindless, unthinkable obedience, just blind obedience to the narrative.
Ask any Democrat, any progressive, ask them these two questions. You're going to love this. First question to ask them. There are somewhere between 200 and 9,000 Americans in Afghanistan to this day. That is a fact confirmed by the DOJ. What is the American plan? What are the Democrats' plan to get those Americans home safe? I have asked that question of every single politician from local to federal level in New York State. Not one has come back with an answer. They ignore the question every single time. We hear today that all these progressives, these Democrats are saying, we believe in women's rights. Women have bodily autonomy. They have to have the right to choose. And of course, the choice is going to be late-term abortion, killing babies. Okay, that's their thing. So ask them this very simple question. Did you support vaccine mandates? Because if you did, that opposes bodily autonomy. No one got to choose, including the very women you're telling me that you support right now to make choices on their body, didn't have that choice. So which one is it? Do you support bodily autonomy, in other words, choice on how I handle my life, my healthcare, my body? Or are you telling me that you believe in them choosing what you want when it's good for you? And listen to their answer. Beto, the fake appropriated Hispanic, says, oh, but I'm smarter than you, so just listen to me. I'm sorry. No, Beto, get the hell out of here. And stop calling yourself Beto. Your name is Robert. You're Robert. You are Irish. Please stop pretending to be Hispanic. You're not. You know, let's be honest. Yeah, he's a weasel, and I hate that. He's trying to get elected off the backs of dead children and a fake Hispanic heritage that he doesn't have.
Yeah,
and he needs to be. And I'm glad that you and others are calling him out for that and saying, "Hey, no, you can't do that."
He's using the tragedy to essentially propel himself into the governor's mansion. And he's being an opportunist in that way. And most of his points is, well, the children are dead because of Abbott. And I'm like, that's not a good, rational cause and effect. Abbott didn't do that. No. And his gun policies didn't do that.
Nope. His solution is to copy and reinforce the same policy that Democrats have been providing to the American people since the 1970s. Take away the guns, restrict guns, make it harder to own guns, and that will protect everyone. They've been saying that for about 5 decades now. Okay. And we have seen that executed to its fullest extent in California, New York State, Illinois, in particular in Chicago, Detroit, Baltimore, and DC. That's where we've seen every one of these ideas, all the gun control, which all amount to one thing: take away the guns from the American people. That's it. That's their answer. Take away the guns and you'll be safe. Okay. What gun policy has actually worked? In 5 decades, they can't point to one law, one policy, one city, one state where it has ever worked. Then why should we do it? And I appreciate the fact that you've given me a chance for us to be on your show to share some of my thoughts. But they're the same thoughts you have. I think they're the same thoughts that 80% of Americans have every day. I mean, how many times do we hear, oh, we've got a home run that's going to change our economy. Oh, fantastic. It failed. Don't worry. We've got another home run. Forget that one. Let's go on to the next one. But wait a minute. What about the money we just spent? Oh, don't worry about that. Keep going. Keep going. We got another thing. They don't want to talk about consequences. I love the fact that you're talking about consequences. Remember, I'm not supposed to exist. I'm a black Republican. I'm a black conservative Republican. I don't exist. You are right now. This is just one big digital image, according to Joe Biden, because I didn't vote for him. So I'm obviously not black. I don't know. My dad, my mom seem to think so, and so my brother and sisters. But, you know, Joe Biden, he's the arbiter on these things somehow. You know, it's just crazy. So, I mean, I love this. I love this interaction.
Right. It's benefiting me, and I hope it surely is benefiting anyone who's watching us.